Hello, world. Well, YouTube at least. Hello, Lucy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Gary?
I am so really excited that you and I agreed to go on this crazy exploration with this new Inside Out show.
Yeah. So welcome to our show, everyone. Whenever, wherever you're tuning in, maybe it'd be good to start off with if we talk a bit about ourselves, and then we could talk a little bit about what we had in mind. What's brought us here. Although it's going to go where it's going to go. So that's kind of all up for people that join us and where our discussion goes. And we do talk quite a lot, don't we? So our discussion could go anywhere. But yeah, shall I start?
Yes, please tell the world about Lucy.
Yeah.
And what are you bringing to the party?
Nice to meet you, everyone. My name's Lucy. I live in the New Forest. I'm originally from Manchester, up north, and I moved down south to go to uni. I did a degree in environmental and social science. When I graduated, very early 90s, one, there weren't many jobs about. We were in a recession. And two, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I hadn't really thought about it. So for a few years, I worked in pubs. I made hats out of old curtains. I did various temp jobs. I was sort of trying to figure out what to do with my life. And then really by chance, I ended up getting a job at IBM. I ended up working in the tech sector for 23 years. I left, I actually did my last 4 years at Microsoft, and I left there just over a month ago. And Gary and I were having a conversation probably about three and a half weeks ago now. I'd only just left, I think, about life, the universe and everything. And that conversation led to this show. But we'll come back to that when you've talked a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Lucy. So for those that do know me, I've got this other show right here, right now, live. And this really is something completely different and way more interesting, to be honest, over time. Is that show's been brilliant, and that will run till the end of this year. But this collaboration, I just really felt powerfully with Lucy. We were together at the Human Development Space across the 7th and 8th September. But we knew each other before that through a couple of different people, Rich Cooper and a few others. And there's just been this really, and also we were both enterprise advisors when I used to do that down in Dorset. So Lucy and I have sort of been in each other's orbit for probably a couple of years, but we've not really got to know each other as much until probably the sort of last several weeks. And I've just found this beautiful connection between, although we come in from very different lenses, very different sort of perspectives, we seem to have this really common thread around sustainability, around diversity, equity, inclusion, around equity, really. And of course, I'll use regeneration. We'll talk about that word again later. But why do I care about that as Gary, as this human being, is that what I've realized as I've started to get to know Lucy is just how much this stuff means to me. So I work in the chemicals industry, one of the most extractive industries on the planet, taking stuff out the ground, making consumable products that we all use every part of our day. Now, on its own, that's not a bad thing, but the extent to which we use all of these things very unconsciously without thinking twice about them, it is literally one of the biggest causes of our challenges on this planet. So I'm deep in the middle of these systemic challenges, and I'm wondering through this conversation, Lucy, what you and I may uncover for each other, for those that are watching us. And we just really want to just offer a space for reflection and inquiry, really, don't we? I think.
Yeah. It was. I remember the conversation we had. I'd decided to leave Microsoft to get out of big tech and start my own coaching business. I'd been coaching as part of my job anyway, as a leader. It's a very natural and important part of managing people. And I just felt a real, love. I was drawn to it. It was a bit of a calling, really, getting into coaching. Been doing a lot of training, been trying out a lot of models, been using it as an enterprise advisor, as you mentioned, working with young people and their career choices. And we've just been getting more and more back into thinking about the environment, from way back when I did my degree in environmental studies. And really what had helped me, I think, even though it's been obviously a terrible couple of years, was COVID and being at home for extended periods of time and getting in touch with the garden and thinking about where our food comes from and thinking, why do I spend all this time in the car or on a train? And, eventually I decided to take the leap and just do my own thing. And one day, Gary and I were helping each other out with our websites. And I said, I've got a lot of respect for you, mate, because you have made the decision to not leave, because you want to change where you are from the inside. And you can see a lot of the challenges in the chemical industry, as I could in tech. But I honestly just didn't feel like I had the energy to focus on that. I just felt like I really needed to be doing something outside, working at a smaller scale, being local to where I am, and trying to do things from that place. And it just started us off on lots of different discussions, because there's no right and wrong. There's pros and cons for being on the inside of something or the outside of something. And the more I think about it, the more I feel, constantly one of the labels I put on myself is that I am an outsider, that people don't get me, that people don't understand me, that people think I'm a bit weird, because of, a lot of the things that I'm trying to do with my life, a lot of the things that I don't want to do. And it's nice when you meet somebody that gives you the space to talk about what your interests are, what your challenges are, what you think we need to do, to try and increase our sustainability on the planet. And I know we've had a debate about sustainability versus regeneration, and there's definitely room for both in this conversation. But sustainability to me really is about survival. At the moment, in the UK, we consume enough carbon to need 13 planets to live on individually each. So, we don't have 13 planets, we have one. So sustainability to me is us being able to live a good, happy, healthy life within the means that we've got available to us. And understanding what that is and what that means and how we do it is a massive challenge for all of us. So that's one of the things that I spend my time thinking about and talking to Gary about. And, one of the things that I really wanted to get people to come and join us on this show to dip into, to bring people's expertise, points of view, experiences from wherever you are, to help us on this journey and to kick some things around together.
I really love that, kicking things around together, Lucy, because like you say, it's almost like we're trying to model as well that, we really do mean this, like the diversity of thought. It's so important. So yeah, you've got at the moment 2 Caucasian human beings who happen not to be the same gender. Great starting point. We've met well, we really get on well. We really believe in a lot of the similar things. But we do want this space to include you if you're watching this. And it's not just about groupthink, it's the complete opposite. We want to have healthy debate. We want to have healthy discourse, but with the aim, I would say, Lucy, isn't it? It is a lot around amplifying those voices that we don't always hear. It is about having challenging debate, but in a way that's respectful and that we're listening to one another. And I just really hope that we can create this space together that invites those people in to have those more, maybe the conversation we have in our own head that we don't feel always happy to come out of our mouth is probably the way I'd summarize it.
Yeah, and meeting people in different places, I think, where you live, where you work, and the social media circles that we travel in, they can tend to be like little echo chambers, because there's definitely a language. You'll have like a family language, a friend's language, definitely have a language at work that you have to speak to fit in. And I don't know about you, but some of the things that I follow on social media and the different platforms that I use, I go where I feel comfortable. And, sometimes that can be too much of an easy choice. So, yeah, getting people that maybe aren't in those spaces, but that have, got something to say to help, to join in. That's what we want to do with this show, really.
That's awesome. And I love you sharing that example around, like, we'd need 13 planets to support our current way of life. Just think about that, people. If you're watching this live or watching this back, 13 planets. We've only got one. Like, you talk about exponential growth being 10x if you're in technology, right? 10x growth, the next unicorn, that's seen as a good thing. We're expending our natural resources at a rate of 13x. That should terrify the shit out of us.
Well, and that
it terrifies the shit out of me.
That's individuals in the UK, and that's an average number. So where did I get that? You might be thinking. Well, the Worldwide Fund for Nature, WWF, have got a little app which is carbon footprint. And if you just go and search WWF carbon footprint app, you'll find that. And you can get an idea in that of what your carbon impact is at the moment. And, one would be 1 ton of carbon dioxide equivalent would be a fair share for everybody on the planet, bearing in mind the nearly 9 billion of us that there are at the moment. But in the UK, our average is about 13. When I did it, mine was 9, so I need 9 planets. And, we've got to look at reducing that, obviously, as much as we can. And it's a challenge because we're used to our way of life. We're used to having things, when we want them. It's a little bit chilly at the moment. Let's put the heating on. But no, go and get another top.
But that's a really nice actionable step you can take, right? It's that consciousness shift of flicking on the heating versus putting another top on. Like that is a step. That is a step. I just got to say, our mutual friend Francis. I love the idea of you guys having people on the chat
I
show
want to
about
wave,
this.
but
Yeah, you can wave. Everyone can say, hey, Francis. Thank you for joining us, my friend. I want to share a similar but different story. So you shared that great story through your carbon literacy, your previous background. So again, I work in the chemical industry, people, if you're watching us live or watching this back. And again, well-meaning people got a way of life to maintain, to support their kids growing. Like we've all got the same desires, right? Particularly in the West. But when you realize, like I have in the last 2 years, that what we're being peddled, what we're being told is sustainability, quite often it isn't sustainability. So let me give you an example. That plastic bottle that I do occasionally drink out of, I have to be honest still, because I'm addicted. It's an addiction. I'm addicted to certain soft drinks. That's made of something called PET. You'll see PET on the bottom, polyethylene terephthalate. I sell the product that goes into making that, okay, called PTA, purified terephthalic acid, goes into PET. There are some works being done by certain manufacturers around the world to offer a carbon neutral version of that material, which I think is brilliant. And that's such a positive step, right? As a consumer, you'll listen to that and go, brilliant. I'll carry on drinking Coca-Cola then, because I know it's actually sustainable. Please don't do that. Why? The raw material is still a fossil fuel feedstock. It's still coming from crude oil. It's just the documentation that comes with that production process is more carbon neutral. So my invitation here, this is why we're called the Inside Out Show. Local, systemic, inside corporate, outside corporate. This is what we're trying to bring with this conversation, is real talk, but in a healthy, fun, exploratory way. Because if we don't share these sorts of stories, Lucy, we're just going to be part of that echo chamber you spoke about, I think.
Yeah. It's tricky as well, because you think about supply chains, what you just mentioned, there's kind of people working all the way through that supply chain to make the soft drink, to make the containers, to do the marketing and the selling and the transportation. And what we're not saying is, we want to get rid of all those jobs, but we're going to have to reduce what we do. We can't keep churning plastic out at the rate we are. And I've got quite into healthy eating and thinking what you put in your body. And Coke's really got to be a treat. You shouldn't really be drinking it all day. There's so much sugar in it. So I think the big thing for me is reduction of everything. That's what's going to help us, to make that difference. And I think it's healthy as well at the end of the day. One of the things that Gary and I had a chat yesterday about social media. I felt a bit overwhelmed lately from all the different channels, all the incoming and feeling a little bit stressed. You get this kind of feeling I get it in my chest. You might get it in other places where you think I need to check whatever it is, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, but you don't, and again, reducing, I think is better for your health, your mental health. Do something else. Go for a walk. Went for a lovely walk in the rain yesterday, which, normally, and this is such a first world problem, I think, it's raining, I don't want to get wet, but actually it was fantastic. Get all togged up in your waterproof clothes and get out there in the fresh air. And the carbon impact of that isn't much, really. Obviously, I've got to eat some food, so I've got the energy to yomp about. But it's such a big topic, involving your own physical and mental well-being, as well as the environment and the economy. It will be interesting to see who pops in and what their take is on all of these topics.
Yeah, I'm totally with you on that as well. And I think part of me, and again, none of this is about, so important this for me, Lucy, is none of this is about shame or pointing fingers. We are where we are. It's actually about, I think a lot of it's unlearning, and I'm in a massive unlearning phase at the moment, because I've still got quite a nice car sitting out here that doesn't need to be sitting out there, right? And even if I get an electric car, which is definitely the route I'm thinking of going, the question actually is, do I really need a car? And these are the sort of more provocative questions that even I'm starting to sort of have to sit in more. Is do you really need to be a 2-car household? What's your proximity to local area? Are you looking after in your own community? Can you grow more food locally? you only got to look at the fuel challenges we've got at the moment. Like, imagine we don't have fuel anymore tomorrow. What do? Open question. Like, it's just a really interesting sort of experiment, isn't it, to just go through? It's like, what if we didn't have these extreme examples of modernity at our fingertips? What would we do differently? I'm just really curious for us to explore stuff like that,
Oh yeah, I've done that activity today. Actually, I've got 90 miles of fuel in the tank in my car, and I looked at where I was supposed to be going for the rest of the week, and I was working out how many miles it is to each place, and and I'd have my car in eco mode to try and eke it out as much as possible. And I was thinking, well, there's 2 or 3 things on there that I don't have to do, and there's one where I can drive a little way but then get the train, and actually that might be better because I don't have to worry about parking at the other end. So it's things like that. It's, as you say, it is a bit of a first world problem, because at least I've got the money at the moment to fill the car up. Although, I haven't surrounded myself in work opportunities since I left my job. I've been taking a bit of time off, so I need to do a bit of business development so that I can get money coming in, or that, how do I fill the car up? That will be something that I'm worrying about in a few months.
But for now, we've got the Inside Out show, which is amazing. And just let's give a little bit more context maybe about the show. We've introduced ourselves, some of the stuff we're passionate about. So we're looking, Lucy, I think, aren't we, to sort of run 2 weekly initially to see how that flows. We've got a couple of great guests already lined up, haven't we?
Yeah. So I think we've got Nikki in a couple of weeks.
That's it, on the 18th.
Somebody that you know. And she's, is she in America? Somewhere?
Exactly, that's right. Yeah, so we've got Nikki Anani, and she's basically in Texas, I think, after moving from Nigeria, I think.
So she's going to bring her story, and from a different part of the world, which is great. Love to hear from people from the global south, what their experience is like, how it's been with COVID, what the climate emergency looks like from there, what it's like with jobs and equal opportunities, because we talked a bit about diversity, inclusion and equity in the workplace and getting every voice heard. But again, we've only really got a UK point of view on that, and fairly big business, which is where we both work. So it'd be great to have other points of view, what the experience is like, what good things are happening, especially positive things that we can share. But also if people have got pain that they want to bring, it's good to have that conversation. It's good to get that out, as long as people feel safe to do it.
Yeah, it's a really lovely ad, actually, Lucy, because I how guilty I've been over the last few years of like fanning the noise on sort of LinkedIn and sort of projecting, my views and stuff. And we all do it very innocently. Like, again, there's no judgment. But what I'm sitting in right now as we go on this journey together with this show is just this. I feel light. I feel free and just exploratory. I feel like I'm putting on my little sack with a few clothes and an apple in, and we're just going to go wandering through somewhere and just see who we meet and what we get to explore together. That's the sort of energy I'm feeling as we get going.
Yeah, I think we're both looking for tribe, aren't we? And finding people that we can have these open conversations with, where we feel listened to and nurtured, and not like weirdos, or not like we have to speak in a certain language to fit in, which is more that kind of inside point of view. And feeling like weirdos is the outside point of view. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to making new friends, and hearing from people that I don't know at the moment, as well as if we can get people on that we do know, who've got excellent stories to tell. It's all really important. I think one of the things that we've talked about a few times is kind of feeling like you just need to be able to be yourself. And I don't know if that resonates with everybody, because we're all very different personality types. Some people are very reflective and introverted and maybe don't want to get it all out, whereas I suspect that Gary, you and I are both more on the extroverted, very expressive. We like to vocalize our thoughts and feelings. So it's always interesting to hear from other people. Maybe if they don't want to talk and they don't want to do a video, if they want to put a piece of writing together, or send us some form of different media that says what they want to say.
God, that's beautiful. And this, by the way, was, as you hopefully have seen, this is unscripted. I think that's a beautiful invitation, Lucy. Like I say, one of these could literally include a poem, or just some writing, a couple of paragraphs of text that someone wants to get that message out, but maybe doesn't feel comfortable going live. I think that's a wonderful invitation.
Well, I think I was inspired to that, actually. I spoke just before this session to a friend of mine, Nicola, who I actually went to uni with, and we lost touch for about 30 years. And then we got back in touch a few months ago, and she did the same course that I did in environmental studies, and she's now a counsellor, so more at the therapeutic end. But again, she loves to work with nature. She does a lot of her counselling outside, and she was talking about a session she's running where they're asking people to bring a piece of writing, a poem, a work of art, maybe a piece of music to almost like an open mic session in the week. And this is a community of nature-based counsellors. And so, yeah, I think that was in the back of my mind, thinking about those different media, different way of expressing yourself if you're not necessarily comfortable standing in front of a camera.
So cool. Love this. If you're joining us live, feel free to chip in, put a question in. If you've got a question for Lucy and I, or if you're maybe someone that's curious to be a guest, do follow us on LinkedIn. We will be publishing, just as a reminder, or going live every 2 weeks is the plan. So we have Nikki Anani in 2 weeks' time on the 18th, coming in from the US. Then 2 weeks after, we've got our mutual friend Joe Homstead coming on, who's been doing some wonderful community building work around her local. Back to your point about building local community, Lucy, which I find really, really exciting, is that we're really bringing with this show the blend of truly a global perspective, a corporate perspective, but also an independent perspective and a local perspective. We're really trying to weave all that together, which I'm really, really curious how it all will emerge. To be honest, I think it's so beautiful.
Well, we generally live in communities, don't we? Whether it's a block of flats or a village or a housing estate, suburbs in the city. But how many people do we actually know that well that live in our community? I think it's kind of dying a little bit, isn't it? Since we all got addicted to the telly or playing computer games or, messing around on our phones all night. And it's great that, if you're in a family unit and you like to spend time with your family, but I do think we lose something if we don't have a strong community. So yeah, I think what Joe's doing is fantastic, and I've been looking at trying to develop something like a community supported agriculture scheme in the New Forest where I live, where we can grow food and try and grow as many different things as we possibly can and get people from the village involved, whether that's with their time or maybe with investment, if they've got money but not time, and also to give people jobs, if we can get some sponsorship and build up some funds and maybe take on a couple of people to work on the land and get those skills which we really need to be built up again in the UK, because I think we've lost a lot of that. But yeah, I love the idea of communities. We're in a lot of online ones at the moment, and that's been a necessity really because of COVID. And it also means that we can talk to each other a lot, even though you're in Kent and I'm in Hampshire. So again, they're a wonderful thing, and there's space for everything. But that kind of localism aspect, I think, is a really rich opportunity for us to make a difference and to make ourselves feel good.
I'm just so excited about the stories that are going to emerge, because when I look at it, a lot of my learning, I'd say, Lucy, over the last few years has been, it's of course been localized, it's been in community on the one hand, but it's almost been aspiring towards like the big name. And there's a lot of great big names out there doing important work. But I think it's more, I want to learn from these local leaders that are coming up like you with this local scheme, to grow your own food and actually sharing that amongst a local community and reducing the reliance on having to travel to get food. And I think these are the stories we need to see more of now, is actually the real grassroots, who's actually doing it on the ground, rather than just these sort of sages on a stage, which I think we've become a little bit obsessed with. I certainly did for a number of years anyway. So
yeah, that's sages on the stage. I like that. It's so true, isn't it? But people that have got a background working in knowledge industries like me and you, we know of people like Simon Sinek and Brené Brown, and they're amazing, but they're not here, they're not right here right now, to quote your other show. They're somewhere else, doing things. We don't know them, do we? We can't really invite them in for a cuppa.
I reckon you could, but hey, that's another show for another day. So we're into the last 5 minutes of this brilliant. This is what it's going to be like, Luke. How exciting! Like 20. This is just me and you. We've got to remember to communicate with the other person. I think it'd be very easy to do a 2-hour show, I think.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about, and we were talking about that earlier, weren't we? Like, some shows it'll just be us, and maybe we'll try and tee up a topic. Although we both quite like that emergent aspect where you're not really sure where it's going to go, and the discussion kind of takes itself, it steers itself. But yeah, it will be lovely getting people on and getting them to tell their stories, and then seeing where it goes between the three or however many of us are on, the three of us, in terms of the direction the discussion takes.
So cool. So again, if you've been with us all the time, thank you. If you're just watching this section, Lucy and I would love to invite you onto the show if you're somebody that's working globally, working locally. But we're not precious about the topic, but there seems to be an energy around this sustainability focus, what I call regeneration. So really, this how do we live in line with nature's natural systems is probably the best summary. There's also a piece around diversity, equity, inclusion. There's a piece particularly on the equity piece. How do we hear the voices that maybe we don't hear as often today? Understanding that we don't want to harm those people that aren't speaking. So Lucy shared a brilliant example. Maybe we can get writing from those people, or maybe poetry, or just find creative ways to get those voices heard that we don't always hear from. So there's just a couple of themes. Anything else you'd add to that? Anything else that we're curious about on the show, Lucy?
I think feel free to question us as well. If we say anything that seems a bit entitled is a good word, isn't it? Or if you feel like we're not aware of some of our privilege. I mean, it's something that we've both talked about quite a bit, and I feel like we do try and acknowledge what we're lucky to be born with. Just being UK citizens and being white, and having both been through a good and up to tertiary standard education. There's lots of things that we're very grateful for, and we've both got our health and wonderful family around us. But yeah, please do question us, and throw in a few curveballs.
I love that. How many shows do you have someone saying to you, "Hey, throw in a few curveballs"? That's what I love about Lucy. You can see how much trouble she's going to get me in. I absolutely love it. So as we wrap up, Lucy, any final words from you as we go on into the rest of our 4th of October?
Well, yeah, I mean, keep in touch, everyone. I can see Gary's been sharing our contact details, and we're on LinkedIn. I think you're probably more on Twitter than me. I find it a bit vile, and I tend to go on there just to pontificate about something, which is a very bad habit. But also, we've both got our websites there, and you can email both of us through those. And yeah, it'd be lovely to hear from people. Please do throw your hat in the ring. Metaphorically speaking, not many people wear hats nowadays, do they? But yeah, let us know. Express your interest.
Express your interest in your favorite type of hat. I think that's going to be the way that we're going to accept this. Francis, bless us, stay with us. Looking forward to this. Would you like to hear from people with suggestions of guests? That's a great shout.
A great idea. Yeah,
Thank you, Francis. Yes, brilliant idea.
People that you think would enjoy it, get something out of it, and then please do make recommendations and tell all your friends.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thanks, Francis. Because I really feel this is what the energy is going to embody what we both want, really, which is this not just community, but actually just learning and sharing, right? Like I know I'm going to learn something or be challenged by something every time we have a show, or even maybe just be reminded of something that I've forgotten, Oh, gold. Can we just keep going? Another hour and a half? You got it? No, better not.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking of all the things we haven't said, all the unsaid things. But yeah, they could be future chapters, can't we? What we really both think about work. What we value in terms of feedback from other people, what's missing from the education system, all those different things that we can bring to the show.
Brilliant. And again, doing our best not to, but I'm guilty, but doing our best not to pontificate, really trying to hold space for emergent dialogue. This is what we want. Bring your ideas. Let's go flowing together. And hopefully you'll join us with the wonderful Nikki on the 18th of October in 2 weeks' time. So thank you, Francis. Thank you, Lucy.
Yeah, thank you everyone who's watched this at any point, and hopefully you'll join us for the next show. See you soon.
Take care, everyone.